Bienvenue à bord de l'Odyssée Inspire, la première web-série où le spectateur devient aussi acteur. Nous, c'est Diane et Théo, dealers d'innovation positive. Armés de notre caméra et de nos vélos, on parcourt le globe à la rencontre des pirates de l'avenir. Des femmes et des hommes ordinaires aux projets extraordinaires. Et parce qu'inspirer c'est bien, mais qu'agir c'est mieux, on a créé pour vous ce format inédit. 7 thématiques à explorer à travers 7 épisodes et leur atelier d'innovation pour faire émerger des idées de projets à impact sur votre territoire. Alors, embarque avec nous à bord de l'Odyssée Inspire, la première web-série où tu construis l'avenir.
Hi guys, this is Diane and Theo from the Hinspa team.
After 1 year and thousands of kilometers biking across Europe,
We made it to Amsterdam to meet with the pirate called Marjan.
she's the founder of Schoonschip, the most sustainable floating village in Europe. Let's discover this.
Okay. Hi, I'm Marjan. I'm one of the founders of Schoonschip, a floating sustainable village in the middle of Amsterdam where we live with 160 people and a rising number of kids.
Qu'est-ce qu'on va aujourd'hui?
On va débuter le tournage de notre 3e épisode à Schoonschip. Première impression sympathique. Qu'est-ce que t'en penses?
Okay, so I'm Marjan. I'm TV director. I work. I have all these things like, no, yeah, but I'm also a twin mother. I'm also a colleague and a neighbor. And I'm one of the founders of Schoonschip, a floating village in Amsterdam.
Ach, Marjan, she's great. She really goes for it.
She's interested in people and everything.
If you ask me, would this project be possible in Amsterdam? I would say never. But it is. I mean, she proved it.
Ja, a good nose for good people. Ja.
She has a lot of guts and power to make this happen.
She's a doer, yeah.
Schoonschip.
We have traveled.
Nobody knows how to pronounce it. Schoonschip, Schoonschip. The life that we've created, the way cities are organized, that it doesn't really serve us anymore, or not the majority of people. There's a lot of loneliness. It's hard to be sustainable. It's hard to buy less because everything is designed for the individual. And when I started this project, it was my aim to create an environment in which I was able to live more sustainable and more connected to the people around me. I think in the housing industry, people still choose to use the wrong materials, not as sustainable as possible, because it's, of course, cheaper, which I understand, but still, you have a choice. I think the biggest problem is that people, they buy their house. They don't have anything to say about their house or the environment of the house, their neighborhood. They just buy it and then go and live there. I think people should be way more involved in building neighborhoods, in creating areas, in creating houses. Like the housing market is, of course, a big problem at this time. Everything is becoming more and more expensive. It's a big problem, and it's crazy because it's so important to have a place to stay. There are so many people who cannot find a house. The only reason that I can live here and a lot of people can live here that are living here now is because we built it ourselves. I paid with my time and with my creativity. Of course, I had to pay my mortgage. It's maybe half of what I should have paid if I would just buy the house. So create your own environment. It's more fun, you get more connected, and it's cheaper. At that time, I lived in a small house in Amsterdam, a really cute house, but like typical Amsterdam, not really connected to the street I was living in, and it was hard for me to live a sustainable life. Of course, I did some things like I was separating my waste, I was vegetarian, I shared my car, but of course that was not enough. As we all know, a lot more is needed for this transition that we're in. And with that in mind, I started this project in order to create a way of living that makes more sense to me, is more logical. Everybody I spoke to was like, okay, I want this too, and they joined. So we became a group, and I realized this is the right idea at the right moment, in the right place.
Quand tu perds le drone avec ton pote, t'es un grimpeur professionnel. La loose, on a un ingénieur dans la team.
Pas ingénieur, on sait être ingénieux.
Forget about the drone. Canoe is the best.
Hello, y'all.
So from the day that I got the idea until the day the first boats were towed into the canal, it was like 12 years, something like that. First there was the group, then there was the location, then there were a lot of legal aspects that we had to tackle, and then the designing and the building, which was the best part, of course. At first I just spoke to my best friends about it, and my goal, my aim, my idea was to do it with friends only. But I soon found out that not every friend is capable of doing a project like this. So we had to think wider, and everybody that wanted to join had to fill in a big questionnaire, like what are your sustainable ambitions, how much can you afford, how big should your house be, what does your family look like, what can you bring to Schoonschip, what would you like to get from Schoonschip. So after reading those forms, you would get a good feeling about which people would be interesting for the project in order to succeed.
Marianne has really find good people. All the people are active and bring something, bring themselves, bring their knowledge, bring their energy.
I have a friend, Juliette, and she's a filmmaker. And she said, let's make a short film about your idea. This was in the phase that there was nothing. There was just my head thinking about a boat and sustainability and a group. So we did that. And then she put it online. I didn't even know that. I forgot about it. And then I got this phone call from Sjoerd and Marjolein. And they said, Marianne, you made a film about our idea. And I was like, your idea? Yeah, we are also thinking about living sustainably with a group on the water, but more from a technical kind of view. And you appear to be more coming from a more social kind of view. So we met, and then they became the next board members for Schoonschip. I was, in the meantime, looking there and there for a location. I couldn't find any spot to land a project, but they said, go and look in the north of Amsterdam. And I said, the north of Amsterdam? You know, I'm from the center and the north. It wasn't so interesting to me at the time. When I came here for the first time, it was really depressing. There was no street light. There was nothing. There was only industry. And I thought, how are we going to live here? How are our kids going to school? How are we going to do this? But then I started to do some research on this area, and I thought, wow, it's really an upcoming area, and a lot's going to be done there. And they weren't developing this plot yet. So when we came with our idea, we were kind of free to go. So we were able to pioneer. Yeah, and that was the reason to start here, and now I couldn't be happier. So when we started the construction, we of course really wanted to use the sustainable materials as much as possible. So we made 3 lists, a green list, a red list and an orange list. You see a lot of wood, you see a lot of second-hand materials. All the houses are really well isolated. Also, we use as much passive energy as possible.
The whole project and concept was experimental in almost every aspect. So there has been a lot of challenges to overcome, to implement solutions that were not used before in any location.
We have on these 30 boats solar panels. We also have a connection between all the houses, and we can exchange the electricity. And we also have batteries on every boat.
We are 2 households with only 1 roof, so we're not completely off-grid because we don't have enough roof space. But we share energy in the smart grid system. We fill each other's needs wherever necessary.
Our electricity bill is way lower than in a normal household. And of course, we don't use gas, so we are really lucky with that.
You have grey water, which comes from your sinks, your dishwasher, your washing machine, your dryer, your shower. And then you have black water. And black water is the water that comes from the toilets. And some of us also have grinders, which grind the produce from fruits and vegetables. The grindings are also black water. Our black water is connected to a vacuum. This has a few benefits. First of all, we only flush with 1 liter of water instead of a regular toilet that uses 6 to 7 liters of water. So this black water is collected, goes to a biorefinery. So we are actually collecting our toilet water and to create energy. That's, I think, in short, very short.
Some of the households have this water recycling shower, so you use less energy and less water when you take a shower, which is amazing, especially if you have kids or you like to take long showers. Guilty.
All these boats have green roofs. It's very interesting because it cools on your black tar roofs. Birds don't fly or don't land, and now they do because there's green and there are insects and there's everything that we actually all really want. Cooling is also very interesting for the solar panels to produce more, because solar panels produce more electricity when they're cool or being cooled. So on a black tar roof, 80-90 degrees, this kind of production of a solar panel flattens all the way because it's too hot, it gets resistance, and then you lose a lot of electricity that you could have been produced.
We have 30 boats, 30 plots, and on these 30 plots, 46 households live. We also have 1 collective space, so we have half a boat is, we realized it together and we use it as a social place. In the past months, we used it for refugees.
We have 100 app groups in which we are always communicating with each other, and it can be about anything. I can say, I'm cooking, but I forgot the butter. I app it, and then a minute later, somebody brings me butter.
We share a garden in which we make, we have all sorts of vegetables and we take care of it together. Other aspects are that we share cars together, electric cars, electric bikes. So there's a lot of stuff circling around all the time.
Hello, Jan.
So we're going to Matthijs' house.
Hallo. Hallo.
Hello.
Hallo.
In order to finance the project, every household needed to get a mortgage. Triodos is one of the most sustainable banks in Holland and in Europe, I believe. And the nice thing was that they really wanted to think out of the box. So that was exactly what we needed, because what we wanted wasn't possible 14 years ago, legally, financially. You just couldn't do it. So we needed a bank to stick with us and to, during many years and think with us, how can we do things differently? And that's what they wanted to do.
I live in a house that's actually 2 houses on one floating block. And at first the city council didn't want that. They said, we don't have the permit for 46 households. You only have a permit for 30 households. And so that was a big obstacle to get the city council to agree. And then the banks had to, how do you mortgage one house but two families living there? So all these difficult financial things, technical things. Yeah, no, it was a very bumpy road, but worth everything. Yeah, I would do it immediately again.
Every household bought its own house. We also asked every household to pay part of the jetty, so all the collective things, the sustainable installations, we paid for them together. The houses here, they will cost between 350,000 euros and 1 million, with 1 million being a big exception. The thing that made it affordable for me and for everybody who lives here is that we build it ourselves. So the biggest cost was our time. We put so much time in it. That's how we kept the costs low. But if I now sell my house, I would be able to ask the same as any apartment in Amsterdam of the same square meters, maybe even more. I really feel that if you buy a house in the center, you buy just a house. If you buy a house in Schoonschip, you buy a village. And so for me, Schoonschip is not expensive at all.
Troisième journée de tournage qui s'achève.
Pas de galère aujourd'hui.
Mais aujourd'hui, on n'a pas craché de caméra. On est content. Et il faisait beau.
Não, e tu? Também não. Jeito de rica, né não? Ah, sei lá, pelo cabelo. Se for, qual o problema? Já viu rico namorar pobre?
If you look at my neighbors, you listen to my neighbors, you can tell that they have become happier. You see so many smiling faces. It's really nice. And if people are sick, or if people need something, or new kids are born, we help each other, we cook for each other, we know about each other's lives. Just so fulfilling. Yeah.
For me, the biggest perk is the community. I think this relationship I have with my neighbors, I think it's not only my neighbors who I share this block with, but also the people on my jetty, just the whole community. I think it's fantastic.
We choose to be completely open source, so everything that we have experienced, everything that we've learned is on our website. We made a green print in which you can follow step by step how we did it, why we did it, what we would have done differently. We want to be part of the transition. So we want people to look at us, see how we did it, improve it, and do it even better.
I'm really proud that the people who live here think we all have this same way of thinking, but also our children are being raised in this way. So they will, once they're adults and once they decide to build a house or they, I don't know, do their shopping or whatever, I hope that it will be imprinted on them to have this sustainable choice.
When I got the idea of Schoonschip, I was kind of embarrassed because I thought, yeah, I make television shows. I don't build villages, you know, I don't build houses. How are we going to do this? Sometimes I'm like, wow, how did this happen? I know exactly how it happened because I was there for 14 years, but how can it be that I realized this? I didn't have the money, I didn't have the knowledge. All I had was time, and that was what I spent, and it worked out.
You don't need to reinvent the wheel. There's already people doing a lot of amazing stuff all around the world. Look up these projects, get information, get into touch with these people.
Find a group first of 30, 40, 50 people, and then together start this, which is different than like an investor who just built these boats and said, well, now you're a community and you can buy one of the boats. That would be a totally different way of getting this community done.
In my case, not having money was really stimulating because I became like the small child who really wanted to have something and I was going for it. But what I see around me is that a lot of people use not having money as an excuse to not be able to do anything. And that's another discussion maybe, but I think that's dangerous. That you should never let your wallet decide what you will or will not do. Instead of letting the lack of money hold you back, try to be creative. Try to look for other ways to realize your dreams, and find the right people, find like-minded people, and have the right people on the right spot. Have everybody do what they're good at, where their heart is, and can't go wrong.
Un petit mot sur ce que va être cet épisode de Dingo.
La peu frappe.
La peu frappe.
Ça y est, maintenant, c'est à toi de jouer.
Après cette dose d'inspiration, il est temps de passer à l'action.
Avec ton équipe, participez à l'atelier d'innovation Inspire.
Un jeu spécialement conçu pour faire émerger vos idées de projets impact
À mettre en place sur votre territoire.
Tu trouveras toutes les informations dont tu as besoin en cliquant sur le lien ci-dessous.
Toi aussi, réveille l'innovateur impact qui sommeille en toi et embarque à nos côtés à bord de l'Odyssée Inspire.
La première web-série où tu construis l'avenir.